TOLpodcast.com. It's your boy Jay Lip. You know what this is, and you know who I am. This is Talk That Talk Tuesday. Thinking out loud, TOLpodcast.com. You know what this is, and you know who I am. It's your boy Jay Lip. Of course, the missus in the building. Mrs. Lip, how you feeling?
Oh, blessed and highly favored, you know.
As usual. Now, are we feeling blessed and highly favored about what's going on with these Hollywood execs right now?
Oh, well, what they do has nothing to do with my blessings and highly favoritism. But I will say they're having just a bad month, a really bad month.
Okay, now, to start that off, is it a bad month or is it a bad beginning? Are we going to continue to see months of different Hollywood executives get brought to light for the crimes or the alleged crimes that they may have committed?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this is a decades-long problem. I wouldn't be surprised to know that in the inception of Tinseltown, that this was an issue. Women and just people in general, men and women being objectified by people in power because, you know, people were going to Hollywood for opportunity to do something that they love. And if they saw, you know, this person as a barrier and they wanted something sexual to get that person where they wanted to be, you know, they might have thought that that was the path of least resistance and just did it. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if things continue to be unearthed for months and possibly years to come.
Okay, and I'm with you on that. And I think that anybody who suffered any type of sexual abuse definitely is within their right to cause claim to those allegations towards the person who's the perpetrator of the crime. However, I must say, these are allegations, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how are we able to continue to judge these individuals and basically impact their livelihood by said allegations?
Well, I think, as individuals, we speak with our dollars. So if we are unhappy with, you know, how some of our celebrities are conducting themselves, we, you know, express our opinions by not seeing their movies, by, you know, speaking out negatively on social media. I mean, we use the tools that we have to state our opinion. So, you know, one day we could say how much we love a certain actor. They do something unsavory and we can turn around and say like, no, I don't condone this and I will not support this as a fan or as a consumer. Like those are the powers that we have.
But you don't know if they did it though.
Yeah, but like I've said before, and I'll continue to say, and I'll stand on these laurels, I am more likely going to stand by someone who says that a person sexually assaulted them. I'm not going to assume that they're lying.
You're right. We've been through that. So let's fast forward and say, okay, you know what? We had the conversation. It started off, if you really want to get to the very beginning of this most recent generation in this whole series of claims, it started off with Bill Cosby, right?
Right.
Okay, so you had one woman, two women, 64. However many women have come out in the tens of dozens to say that Bill Cosby had sexually assaulted me in some way, shape, or form, whether you consider it direct rape, whether you call it molestation, whether you call it date rape, where they ingested some type of drug and he was able to do things to them against their will, without their knowledge. It's all wrong. But the question is, why are we seeing right now a series of basically every day you turn on the news, there's a new person that's brought to light as being basically a sexual deviant or a sexual predator towards young women in the industry of Hollywood specifically?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, unfortunately for them, but probably fortunately for our society, there's the veil has been pulled back. I mean, the curtain's been pulled back on what's actually happening in Hollywood, and two actors and things that female and male actors, now we know, have had to deal with in pursuit of their happiness and their careers. And unfortunately, clearly this problem is very pervasive throughout Hollywood. So yeah, we're going to hear about a different person on a regular basis because finally these people feel like they have a voice to say, this also happened to me and it's not fair for this person to just continue through their life as if this was not something wrong that they did.
So why do they feel like they now have a voice? Why did they not have a voice when it happened?
Well, I mean, if you think about the topics of rape and of sexual assault, I mean, it's a matter of power. It's their power was taken away from them. Their voice was taken away from them. Their ability to say what did and didn't happen to them or what could and couldn't happen to them was taken away. So now people, okay, that's fine. I'm going to finish, though. Clearly, they're feeling like they found their voice again because so many other women and so many other actors, so many other people have kind of started that momentum. So the door is open and they feel a lot more comfortable to say, like, yes, this did happen to me as well. It might have been a very long time ago. It may have been once. It may have been multiple times. It may have been all-out rape. It may have been sexual assault. Wherever you are on that spectrum, I feel like the people who have spoken out thus far finally feel like they have a voice.
Well, you know what? It's time for devil's advocate. Devil's advocate is, what about the people who are coming out now who literally have had no interactions with these individuals, but yet are getting on the bandwagon because they see a payday or they see an opportunity or they see some type of scope that they can be visible, a part of a greater travesty that occurred, but not to them. How do we handle that?
Well, those people are scumbags, obviously.
Yeah, you call them a name, but what does that stop them from being on the bandwagon of
You
saying?
can't stop anyone from saying anything. There are far too many platforms for people to just like spout ridiculousness, unfortunately. But I do not think that should taint the movement that's happening right now of people in Hollywood saying, yes, this is something that happened to me, or just people in general. I mean, this happens in private homes. This happens in schools. This happens in churches. This happens
Absolutely.
on university campuses.
Absolutely.
So regardless of whomever comes out and lies, that shouldn't stop you from saying, no, this is something that truly happened to me. So for those people who are using this as an opportunity for them to get paid, you're disgusting and probably should get beat with something.
You know what I think it is? I think it's the fact that it's sexual in nature and it's so private, I feel like, as far as like your sexuality and your sexual, what I would call your sexual rights. I feel like it's so private and personal that when we get these allegations, it's basically, well, he's a scumbag. He did it. We don't see the same thing when someone says, oh, this person did identity theft to me, or this person robbed me. Any other type of crime that would still be considered a felony, you still don't see those people coming out and saying, let's say, for instance, Russell Simmons, who was most recently receiving a claim of allegations against him for sexual harassment and sexual abuse. You wouldn't see him get charged or allegations of Russell Simmons didn't pay me my check. Russell Simmons held money from me and didn't pay me my full earnings. It's money. It's so detached. It's like
if you think about those crimes as well, they're a lot easier to prove. If somebody in Hollywood stole your identity, you could prove that. If they didn't pay you, you could prove that. If they robbed you, you could prove that. It's a lot harder to prove sexual assault and rape.
It's especially a lot harder if it's 40 years later.
I completely agree, and I'm not saying that this is an easy this is not an easy situation to deal with. It is very challenging, but just considering the way that sexual assault and rape changes someone's life, first, I'm not going to assume that somebody's going to make that up. It's a huge issue. Like you're inviting almost more problems than solutions into your life by accusing somebody of sexual assault. So the fact that somebody might only see the opportunity for a payday and not all of the other, just the literal shitstorm that will come down on them by accusing somebody who's beloved by our country and our world because they're an actor or a producer, like you're inviting a lot more problems into your life by accusing someone of sexual assault or rape. Like, come on.
Okay. So what happens when the accused person says this was completely consensual? So, and let's take someone who we mentioned specifically. So, Russell Simmons, he was recently called out today as being a person of sexual assault. Allegations were put against him by model Carrie Clausen. She alleged that in 1991, she was 17. She was invited by Simmons and Brett Ratner to an apartment, look at a music video, and then all of a sudden, things went left. Now, we're not going to go through the details. I mean, this is thinking out loud, but we don't need to, we can imagine what occurred. And at the end of the day, Simmons' response to the allegations was, everything that occurred between Carrie and me occurred with her full consent and participation. So if one person is saying you did A, the second person is saying we did A, but we both agreed to do A, where do we come in and say, as a public opinion, this person was still wrong for partaking in this activity?
Well, I mean, we have to look at...
and also the fact that she was 17. I don't want to make that completely clear. I am not justifying the fact that she was 17 and she gave consent, because you can't do that in most states.
In most states. And that's what I was going to bring up as well. I don't know I would assume if Russell Simmons comes out and says it's consensual and that she was 17, I'm assuming he did his homework. and
Right,
17,
right.
might be the age of consent in New York or wherever they happen to be, would be my guess. I'm sure he's not going to say like, oh yeah, she was 17. She said he was cool with it when like age of consent is 18. I would assume he's a pretty smart guy. So, I mean, with that situation, I mean, if she's not taking him to court, all we have are the facts that we're presented with. And as, just people out in the world, you have to ultimately pick a side. Do you believe him or do you believe her? Until more evidence becomes available, until either one of them says more. I mean, you can only go off of what you have. Now, of course, if this woman's come out and saying he sexually assaulted or he raped me, I'm inclined to believe her.
I got you. And I guess really to close that topic out, the main question is, as far as these allegations sprinkling in, is there a way or is there any type of non-male chauvinist, non-derogatory term insert here that I could have where I'm asking people to just say, you know what, come out and put everybody out now so that we can stop hearing about it every day, a new person that we have to now analyze and make a judgment call about?
Unfortunately, as much as I love you, I do have to say, by hoping that that was the case, that everybody who's ever been sexually assaulted in Hollywood would just come out and just put it out so we can deal with it and
I love you too.
ultimately eventually not have to deal with it anymore. Like, I feel like that is, it's putting pressure on people who have gone through this experience and saying, speak now or forever hold your peace. And that's not fair. You can't dictate when somebody shares their experience, positive or negative. So I think it's unreasonable. I think it's pretty unfair. I think it's also pretty insensitive to just say, look, doors open, say your piece. Next week, we ain't talking about no more. Like, you just can't do that.
No, I got you. And there was a question that came up today, actually, in regards to the fact that what is there to be gained at this point if you, for whatever reason, have held your peace for 40 years and you come out and you make these condemning statements and allegations against these individuals, and let's say that they're true. What is there to be gained from coming out at this point? And I want to know that from your perspective as a female, what is the true, what's the end game here?
Well, I can only speculate because this is not something that's ever happened to me before. But I would assume that if people are going through all this trouble to say, hey, this happened to me, it's an opportunity for them to release a valve, something that has been building up and pressurizing for, 40 plus years potentially. And just for them to say, this person has continued through their lives as if nothing happened, as if they did nothing wrong. This is my opportunity to get this off of my chest and say, this did happen. This person needs to own up to their demons and the fact that they violated somebody else. And I shouldn't have to deal with this on my own. This person needs to take that responsibility as well. And clearly, if these people are coming out and say this person sexually assaulted me, they don't feel like they can just go to that person and say, hey, do you remember you did this, and feel the validation they need to not have to deal with, this act eating them up for the rest of their lives.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
they need that release. And I would never stand in the way of that.
And I'm not standing in the way either. All my only point is, if we're not going to call it out within the
Statute of
the
limitations,
statute of limitations, if
which
we're not going to
is
call it out,
which only has to do with pressing charges and bringing it to court. It has nothing to do with somebody saying this happened to me.
exactly, and if we're not going to do that, to me it brings the question of what is the impact? And to me, the impact is anybody can come out and say XYZ occurred, and the person who you are making the allegations against is going to be the person who ultimately suffers, even your ability to basically your livelihood, especially in Hollywood, because that's all you have. You're an actor or a musician or
No, I
whatever.
completely agree. And unfortunately, we have those circumstances, but it wouldn't be fair that that apple spoils this bunch of people who
Okay.
it actually did happen to.
Okay, so we'll agree to disagree on that because I believe allegations should go through the judicial system, and if they can't fit through the judicial system, then it needs to be a conversation that's taken offline and not necessarily something that we go to Page Six or Media Takeout or World Star, or any other website that will take the story and run with it and manipulate the situation to basically benefit the accuser versus the accused. That's my opinion. I know we differ on that, but that's what Talk That Talk is. So, since we're talking that talk, there was a recent interview that occurred with one of my main men, one of the guys that I listen to as a musician, Sci Hi the Prince. He just dropped an album, his first debut album under to good music. And one of the comments in the interview that he did, he mentioned that if you claim that you're a black owned business, but you do not get your resources and you're not returning your same revenue to the country of Africa, or the continent rather of Africa, you are not truly a black owned business. And I'm going to let the people hear that clip real quick.
Because to me, you can't have a black owned business if it ain't being produced in Africa.
Really? Break that down a little bit more.
Well, I feel like if you got a company or something that's in America and you paying taxes on this and you doing all this and you splitting half of your profit with the government of America, then that ain't a black-owned business to me. You got a partnership. Now, if you send it to Ghana and Ghana make whatever you got and you send it over here and that's export, now you got a black-owned business. So I feel like that's how we empower our country, kind of, instead of going to China and all these other places. Let's go back to our home and give those jobs and different things that we create and see if we could then export and then, help our people as well.
But what about places like Black Wall Street or like Soul City that was in North Carolina? Like those were black ecosystems with black hospitals, black banks, black businesses. What do you think about
But you was on white soil. So you can never be fully black owned. You can never be
paying taxes.
Let's be clear.
They still breaking you, like how they still found a way to do that. They did that because you was on their soil. They
on God's soil.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Well,
they still taking 35% of your money.
Exactly. If it's God or not, they still gonna get there, or they still could tear it down if they want to.
I gotta ask you, Mrs. Lip, being what I consider to be a black-owned business owner and entrepreneur, a beautiful black queen who owns and runs and does everything that you do for yourself, how do you feel about hearing that type of commentary from someone a part of the culture?
I think it's a bit disheartening to hear that, because just because I don't source from Africa or send my money to Africa doesn't make me any less black and doesn't make me own my business any less.
And let me make sure I'm clear too. In the same breath, he did mention the fact that when you say that you're a black-owned business, but you're doing that business on white soil, which he considered to be America, and you're paying white taxes on that, which is the American government, you still aren't black-owned. You ultimately still are a slave to an economic system.
So what is he then? Because he doesn't make music for people in Africa. He is not promoting himself in Africa. He does
makes
not
music for black people.
He doesn't live in Africa. Does he pay taxes in Africa? What is he doing that he can make music? Yeah, okay. Well, I make crochet accessories. Okay, I think he's kind of in a kettle calling the pot black situation. Like you can't say what somebody else is not doing to represent the culture when you yourself are actually doing that same exact thing. You finally have a platform to get your voice out there, and the first thing you're gonna do, well, not the first thing because he's clearly been out for a while, but one of the foundations of your platform are gonna be that, well, you can't really be a black-owned business if you're not, if your profits and your sourcing doesn't come from Africa. Like, how ridiculous is that coming from an artist who's selling music to those business owners? You're trying to get my money.
Let's be clear. He's making music for the hood. He's making music for those who came from the streets. He's making music for the black culture to enlighten
So let's
them.
talk about the black culture then, because you are here in America, on American soil, paying American taxes, making money for American consumers.
And I hate
to
say
Don't bring up Africa if
I hate
you
to
aren't
say
even
it,
doing anything for Africa.
I hate to say it, he is also signed to Sony. So.
Oh, I mean, come on, man. Who is this guy? Now, okay, I didn't know this story.
Don't say who is this guy. Don't say that like he's not out here popping.
No, I'm saying who is this guy, as in, who is this guy to preach to us about where we should be sourcing our materials when you're out here not even doing what you're saying we should all be doing? You as a musician have the opportunity to source materials, to give back to Africa, to do all of those things as well. I'm sure he's got merch, and I mean, he's signed to Sony, so he's not getting his CDs printed in Africa. He doesn't have his website hosted through somewhere in Africa. He is not living in Africa and buying property there and helping businesses. He's not doing any of that either. So who is he to say how we should be spending our business dollars when he's not even a living example of what he's talking about? Right. So I say, who's this guy? As in, if you're going to be a musician and use your platform, make sure you're actually doing what you're talking about.
See, and that's the disconnect, because I think the thing that we're missing here is he never said that he's leading by example. What he's saying is he's making a judgment call towards other people like yourself who claim to be a black owned business, but in the reality of the situation, you can be a black owned business, but you're still selling to a majority white crowd. Like
Well,
you're
if that's going to be the case, maybe he should take his own advice before trying to share that with anybody else. As I would say to anyone, you can't tell me to do something that you yourself are not even doing.
okay.
You're not like a parent, do as I say, not as I do thing. Like, no, you're a music artist signed to a white-owned label in white America trying to sell and get money from black Americans. I don't see Africa nowhere up in none of that mix while you trying to tell us where we need to be spending our money as business owners.
So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and try to reach here and say that you're one of the entrepreneurs who believes that there's only one color, which is green. You don't segregate between selling to black people only versus selling to white people. You sell to whoever's interested in your product. And you just happen to be a black woman who makes product that people want to buy, correct?
Happens to be.
So I just want to make that clear. You're not even in alignment with the fact that, oh, I'm a black owned business, so I exclusively sell goods to black people and then circulate the black dollar within my neighborhood to go to the black grocery store and the black gas station and go back to a black owned home. Like you're not a part of that whole dichotomy of what people like Sci-Hi trying to basically imprint as being the standard of being truly black owned or being truly quote unquote woke or truly just pro black. All these terms we use, I want to make sure that we're clear. At the end of the day, you do what you do because it is something that you enjoy. It's a passion, and it just so happens that God bless you to be able to monetize that, correct?
Absolutely. I didn't set out in my business to, promote it on the basis of my skin color or my community. I created my business based on something that I enjoy and that I'm good at. It happens to be that the community that rallies around that business is mostly white. But I will say that a lot of my customers are African American. I actually received an email just today from a woman who needed help with one of my patterns that she purchased and commented on the fact that she is a black maker. I am a black business owner, and she recognizes that. And I mean, gang recognized gang. Like we know that there's not a lot of us out here doing what we do. So when we see each other, we support each other. We call it out. We say, "Hey, sis, I see what you're doing, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to support you." But I will say that the majority of my customers are white, and it's not so much that my business is just green. I want the money wherever it comes from. Like I've spoken out before about how I don't see myself represented in my industry, but that doesn't mean I'm going to shy away from what I enjoy doing just so I can appeal more to black people. That would not be genuine.
Yeah, I feel you. And being disingenuous is the fastest way to destroy a business because
Absolutely.
you're not being authentic. You're not being yourself, and we don't believe you. You need more people. We don't trust you.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, unfortunately, being in the business that I'm in, being in handmade, and also being in small business, I've seen black business owners create businesses where they have literally no hand in creating the product. They're just the middleman just to get black dollars. So they're not even trying to create a community around their product or do anything to better people of the same skin color. They're just doing it. Their businesses are green. They're the ones that are trying to make money, trying to take money out of black pockets just because they can say, I'm black and I own this business, so you should buy from me. But there's no heart. There's no generosity. There's nothing genuine about it. It's just, I found a group of people who have money, so they look like me. I'm going to play that up, and I'm going to take that money. Sometimes there's so much more to being a small business that, focuses on black products than just owning a business. Like and because I know that I can't create a product where my heart is completely into it, that focuses mainly on the black community, like I would never do that, because then I look like an asshole who's taking money out of the pockets of my community for the wrong reasons. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot.
Talk that talk. All right. Now we got one more topic to get through before we end this shit. So, and this is a curveball for you, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to get yourself together. But this week, specifically today, Tyrese's home was raided by the police because he had a video where he kidnapped, gagged, and chained up Michael Jackson in his living room because Michael Blackson had been making jokes about Tyrese's situation, not having his daughter in his life, his money problems, etc. And so what Tyrese decided to do as basically kind of like a good opportunity to improve his situation, he ended up doing a video that was featured on World Star where he has Michael Blackson in a tarp on a sofa, tied up, gagged, chained, and he's smoking a cigar with the whole Shayla Rocks, which is Tyrese's daughter, who he's trying to get back good custody of. He's walking around smoking a cigar, talking shit, basically implying that because you talk shit about my situation, I kidnapped your ass and I'm about to torture you. Because that video surfaced, the actual local police department sent out troops to his home to raid his home and to investigate the situation. How fucked up is this situation that Tyrese has created?
I mean, it's his own fault. It's honestly his own fault, and I believe that from the very beginning. Like
is it beyond salvation at this point?
I have no idea. Like, I can't imagine why he would think that was a good idea. Not only to do it, like part of my brain, like one of my first questions was like, is this for real? Like were him and Michael Blackson in on something together?
I believe,
just to make like a funny video.
I believe it may have been. However, the way
and
the
if
video
so,
looks,
that is terrible timing.
Yeah,
terrible.
It looks too legit, especially again with the Shayla Rocks hoodie on or whatever. Like,
and we also have to consider like where we are as a country right now. Like, the nastiest word in America is terrorist. So if you want to make a funny video about kidnapping someone, like maybe wait a while. Like maybe now's not a good time to do that.
I think too it was also mixed messaging because it was the same hoodie that he wore when he cried in the first video. It was the same hoodie that he wore when he was slapping the Converses and calling out all his millionaire friends to help him. The same video where he wore the hoodie and it was a picture rather and said that Will and Jada Pinkett Smith donated $5 million to him, which they of course have denied. So you are seeing a series of events from this man who seems to basically be spiraling out of control. But this was the same guy who made multiple hits. I wouldn't go as far as to say that he's this generation's R. Kelly, but he was definitely a strong and profitable R&B artist.
Absolutely.
And he also had a budding acting career. Like, his acting career was budding when it comes to the whole Fast and Furious franchise and other various films. One of my favorite, Baby Boy. That's like, Tyrese is not a person that lacks knowledge or common sense. So why is he doing things at this point that are bringing unnecessary negative attention to his situation, making it harder? Because even after this, his ex-wife, the mother of his daughter, who he wants to see, has filed for permanent restraining order against him and his daughter. Permanent. Yeah. That means you'll never see her.
I'm not surprised. If I was her, I'd do the same exact thing. And what's unfortunate, too, is from what I understand, the whole reason this started is because his money was looking funny and he couldn't get his daughter back and because of the allegations of abuse and everything. But his biggest concern was the money. Well, now you've done this. Why do you think this is not going to further mess up your money? Why do you think that your position is still secure potentially in being in Fast and Furious moving forward, or being in any other movies, or working on any other music projects?
I think he's done Fast and Furious wise, and music wise, I think he's done as well, because you can't really come back from these antics. And
what's terrible is like his album came out fairly recently. If anything, he should have been promoting. He should have been promoting his album and not making a complete ass of himself on social media. Because if people weren't buying your album before, I guarantee you they're not buying it now.
Get you a Hot 97 interview. Get you a Breakfast Club interview.
Right.
But don't get you a Black Rose album and then have The Rock come on with his millions of followers where he says it was black dog shit. Like, you pissed off the wrong one. Like, I feel like Tyrese,
because The Rock has and will continue to have a much larger following than Tyrese. And if anything, you gotta pick your battles with these things. If you have an issue about the fact that the movie's being pushed back, you go talk to that production company. You don't go talk to the man who's out here making his money, who's got a huge following, who's going to continue to make his money because he's freaking America's sweetheart. Everybody loves this guy for one reason or another.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that shit. I don't like that.
No, I'm just saying.
If you like him, I don't like him.
Tyrese made a series of fatal errors. Okay? He pissed off The Rock. He's messing up his own money. He's looking like he's legit. crazy. Like if he was not on medication,
which
he probably needs to be.
He said he was on medication, and that was the reason why he was bugging. But to the mass society, it sounds like the same thing as saying, "Oh, I said a bunch of fuck shit on Twitter, I got hacked." It's the same thing. Like, because you can't judge a person if they say I was on medication. Like, you're basically playing a sympathy card. So it sounds like, for the most part, we on one accord. However, we do disagree.
He's not doing himself any favors, and I've always been a fan of Tyrese. I love his music. His movies are great. Very funny guy. And like I've said before, it totally sets a situation with him and his daughter. But he is just not doing himself any favors. Absolutely. Every single time he's been in the media for the last several weeks
and you
has been
imagine,
something genuinely negative.
And you got to imagine what impact this has on his current wife and the unborn son that he has on the way. Like,
and his daughter, who he's fighting for. Because I guarantee you she's seeing all of this. All of it.
Yep. Well,
she's got to be mortified and just terminally embarrassed by it.
You're terminally embarrassed. I'm going to use that one. All right. Well, Talk That Talk Tuesday. We done ran our course. You know what this is, and you know who I am. It's your boy Jay Lip. Got to thank Mrs. Lip. Thank you, baby, for helping me out with this.
Anytime.
And moving forward, just please subscribe, like, support, comment, share, and most importantly, enjoy. This is Talk That Talk Tuesday on Think It Out Loud, TOLpodcast.com. And let them know, baby.
We out.
Yeah.